Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. We are here with startup advisor with entrepreneurial expert. He has a podcast called The 10-Minute Entrepreneur. He is Sean Castrina. That is SeanCastrina.com. Sean, glad to be talking to you.
Great, man. You spelled that even better than I do sometimes. That was quick. That was good.
And I'm guilty of the same thing. I'm like, what's my name? How do I spell it? So sometimes you need someone else to lend the helping hand.
Yeah. When you do your own name, you're like, okay, no, I've said this a million times, but you're like, you do it really slow. No, it's great to be on the podcast.
And it's great to have you. And you know, that the thing you just mentioned there, where it's really easy to get in your own world, in your own skin, and you don't even know what's right there in front of you. And that's why it's helpful to have people like you who have seen all these things, who have these decades of experience, who can say, hey, I'm looking at what you're doing with your business, and you need to be doing this differently. Do more of this, do less of that. So what are you seeing out there right now? Where does business owners, entrepreneurs, startups need to be paying less attention and paying more attention?
I think the fundamentals of this, I mean, there's startup. Let's just say that's 3 years and back. I think 3 years and back, it's survival. I mean, it just is. And what I have found in every business that I've ever owned is that there's going to be an opportunity in the first 3 years that you never saw coming. And it's how you pivot and how you take advantage of that will be the difference on whether you maybe survive. And it's tough to lay it out in that type of, but it's true. There's something there, an opportunity, and or you can chance to scale it a little faster because you can introduce another product or another service, and it just kind of falls on your lap. And how you kind of see those opportunities. There'll be an employee that you'll be interviewing that can take your business further than you think. And whether you take advantage of that interview, I had one of these one time. I was starting a service company and I brought on a partner, and I would never forget, we were interviewing someone and I was just kind of listening in because I just brought this person in, and they were kind of arguing over $2 an hour. And I was far from rich at this time. And I just remember taking my partner outside and I said to him, just give him the $2. I said, you told me he was the best person within 60 miles of us at what we were going to hire him to do. And we're arguing over $80 a week. If he's not very good, we'll just let him go. If he's as good as you told me he is, it's going to be the best hire we ever made. We hired him and made millions off of it. It's little subtle things like that where it's something simple, but it's going to sit at your doorstep. And, it's how I really is the ability to make critical, good decisions will dictate the future of a lot of your, small businesses and startups.
And I love that. And you're reminding me that just a couple of days ago, I can't even remember which Facebook group it was, but there was this whole argument about some marketing technique. I don't even remember what it was anymore, but they were like, should you do this or should you do that? And there was all this bickering, and someone went there and they posted and they said something like, if you're the business owner, the very short list of things that should concern you is this. And it was like 4 things. And it was like things related to like growing your business. And like if it's down to like this $2 an hour thing or this minor detail that shouldn't even be on your radar, shouldn't even be a concern. And like you said, if it's this like analysis paralysis situation, give them a shot, figure out your window of time when you'll say, I'm going to hire this person and see if I get this result. And after this length of time has passed, is it a pass or a fail? If it's a fail, then start over and move on.
Yeah. And that's it. A lot of decisions you're going to make, you're going to have to beat them into submission. You're going to have to make them work. And I always say every decision I've ever made was the right decision at the time based on the information I had in front of me. But let me give you, that gave me a lot of wiggle room out of that. But situations change, the information changes, the landscape changes. I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, feel like every business decision I made at the time was the right decision. 3 months later, things change. Interest rates may have changed. Maybe I had a competitor move into the market. Then maybe I lost a key employee. Something may have changed that made that decision not, feasible at the time. And I had to pivot and change it. But you make the best decision you can. And I heard, was it Colin Powell said this at one time, but basically every decision is you're about 60% right. You're about 60% right. And then the rest, you kind of, you just kind of make it work. But there's no, you're never making a decision. He was, obviously talking about war and things like that. You never walk into it where there's 100%. You have
I like that a lot.
Yeah, at no point, he's like, do you have every piece of the information? But but speed of it, sometimes, you're going to totally miss out on the opportunity if you're just, some people just are data. They got to have so much information, and that can paralyze you.
So you're saying take these calculated risks, and then there's like that comfort in knowing that you're not a supernatural being. You won't be perfect. So just have what you have in front of you. Speed is an important factor in all this. So that way, if you can make the decision quickly, take the action quickly, that's more important than being right 100% of the time. And so what are you currently working on? What's the situation that you're in at the moment where you're 60% right?
Yeah, well, I'm considering franchising one of my companies. So, and I'm, about the way I look at franchising, if I can let everybody inside of my brain, because it'll show you that I'm an actual entrepreneur. I see that I make 7% of royalties. Let's just give an example. Okay. I make 7%. In my brain, I'm going, well, if I own 5 of these, 100%, it equals like owning like 200 franchises. I'm getting 7%. I can get 100%. So I've got it. Basically, it's, I'm joking, but it's like, I need to own I think it's like 13 of them to equal owning one myself. I'm just letting you guys know, I wrestle with the same decisions you have. So that's a big decision I'm looking at. Do I want to franchise it or am I just creating, just another, monkey on my back, something I need to work out? Because for me, the way I look at it, if I don't have 100 or 200 franchises, it's not worth my time. So, so you kind of got to weigh that and look at everything. And the biggest thing I look at is where do I want to be 5 years from now? And does this help me get there? And so that does give me some clarity. And that's why franchising is something that I'm strongly considering. But there's a part of me that's going, I want to own maybe about 10 of them myself, and then use all the money from owning them to fund the franchising. So it just shows you how I play things out in my head as an entrepreneur. There's no perfect. Franchising is a great decision. By golly, look at McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, and all the way down. It's a great, but it's not for every situation. And sometimes you got to create a hybrid of that, which is kind of what's bouncing around in my head.
And so do you think with that kind of thought process you have, you say, well, here's this big goal I want to have in 5 years. But then the problem with having this big goal is you chip away at it, you end up on like an irreversible path. But then what you've done, you said, well, can I figure out maybe a shorter scale win, or like a milestone that's closer in the future, and then also kind of have some kind of like, maybe not backup plans, but kind of like you said, like this hybrid thing where you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. Maybe that's kind of the solution to, I want to have this big thing established in 5 years, but I have kind of more realistic milestones ahead of time, so that way I can back out if I want to, or if the wins I'm making on the way, I'm like, okay, I'm getting the results I want, I can continue to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have a big, I always have the big goal. Okay. And as you get older, it gets that window. What used to be a 10-year goal now is a 5. What used to be a 5-year goal now is 3. But yeah, you have those, and every decision you make needs to bring you closer to hitting that. Like to me, I want to maximize, the brand of my company. And then I have some financial things that I'd like to hit along the way. And what would be the best way? Franchising can definitely do it. And so could, owning 100% of about 10. So, there's a lot of ways to get things done. And I think entrepreneurs in general love options. Personally, I just like options. I like to have choices and all that. But I think whatever you got to do, you got to marry yourself to it. You don't want to do as a young entrepreneur is just keep bouncing around to the next thing. So I generally put a chokehold on something I want, and I'm committed to it until I feel like it's not, it's not working. The tendency, if you're looking at both options, you'll bail. It'd be like having 2 girlfriends. Second you fight with one, you're going to go to you kind of get the idea. So I think you really need to kind of do your due diligence, but there's no perfect in business. There's no perfect. You go with the data that you have. You got to have some, most decisions are very simple. I mean, will this lead to growth? Is it sustainable growth? Okay, can I maintain this? Can I, provide the fulfillment of it? Is it something I still want to do? Am I still excited about it? You don't want to build something that you don't want to have. I mean, so you got to kind of look at, you got to look at the whole kind of atmosphere out there. And I think some people, growing is great. I'm a growth freak, but it's not for everybody. I mean, some people's personality type might be to build it to this level. And that's okay with it. I mean, that's completely okay. Some people, think mega growth. And some people have an opportunity in front of them that gives them the opportunity but there are certain businesses out there that are never going to go past a certain point.
Well, and how do you fight that kind of entrepreneurial ADD? Because like what you mentioned there of how like there's a place where you fit, or there's like a certain like size to grow your business on. Someone told me a couple of years ago, like I'm good at creating the proof of concept. Like we want to have a new software app, a new project. He's like, you build it, make it kind of work most of the way, and then have someone else pick it up and move it from there, which kind of takes a lot of like self-awareness with your ego, but also, as you know, there's what you want to be and there's what you are, right? And there's kind of like the self-discovery over the years of you try yourself out with different businesses, different projects, different roles. And it seems like that requires trying a little bit of everything, which is counter to what we're talking about of like, focus and get something that works. So how the heck do you fight this whole finger in every pie mentality?
Well, based on what you told me about that person, to me, that person doesn't, some people don't want any of the risk or the responsibility. Like doing the beta. Oh, wow. You have a lot at stake. You have nothing at stake. If it doesn't work, it's a beta that failed. So, I mean, and some people are designed to be employees. I say that, I'm an entrepreneurial addict. Okay. But my daughter's a school teacher. My wife's a nurse. Good people, you know what I mean, that provide a lot of, valuable services in our country aren't necessarily entrepreneurs. It's not their fit. They don't, both of those people I just mentioned, they take forever to make decisions. I was joking with my wife. It's too funny. She owns a Jeep. And if you know anything about Jeeps, is that once you buy a Jeep, that's when the money actually starts. That's why I have an AMG Mercedes. It comes laid out perfectly. But she buys a Jeep and she wants to get a new bumper because they're like Barbie dolls, right? She tells me a year ago that she wants to get this new fancy bumper. It took her a year, her and her brother, a year to make that decision. Literally catalog for a year. I'd have made it in 2 minutes. I literally told her, I said, I would have made that decision in under 5 minutes and would have ordered it in 6. But that's how my brain works. And then there's some people that they're great employees and we need them. Without employees, businesses don't grow. But I think it's important that you kind of know your strengths and your weaknesses.
And so it's cool that you mentioned that, because you reminded me that like decades ago, when my dad would buy a new car, it'd take him like 3 years. He would every Saturday, call all the car dealerships in every surrounding city. And at first I was impressed by that. I'm like, well, that requires a lot of being organized. But then nowadays that would drive me crazy. And there's so many times when the wife says, oh, we need this for the baby's room, or this for the baby. And I go to my phone, I go to the Amazon app, I'm like, this or that, or send me the link. And anything else, I'm thinking like, but my brain has to keep revisiting this decision and nothing gets accomplished. Like, I don't even know how to reconcile that. So it seems like you're saying that not everyone's cut out to be an entrepreneur, and that maybe the big factor to look at first is, can you make these decisions quickly? And do you like risk? Do you seek the risk?
Yeah. I like calculated risk. I don't take anything, stupid. I try to do my due diligence, but I've lost money and I live to talk about it. I've lost money and I've made money, but it's like what you said. Yeah. It took me 10 minutes to buy my AMG. I'm not exaggerating. I pulled in the parking lot. Like, if by chance today I see something that blows me away, saw a beautiful black one there, literally told the dealer person, I told the guy, listen, here's my cell phone number. This is what I'll pay for it. Call me if it's a deal you want to do. I did not stop my car running. I literally just kind of got out, looked at it. The guy came over. I cannot tell you, there's zero exaggeration in the story. It was an under 5-minute decision. And I can tell you, I probably bought 10 cars the same way. I bought houses over lunch. At lunch, seriously, I bought investment property sitting there eating lunch and stuff like that. That's how my brain works. And it's probably why I do well as an entrepreneur. And then I have good friends and family that cannot make a vacation takes them a year to decide. It's a good thing they take one a year, because it literally will take them a year to decide where they're going.
So do you think, is this something that is built into your personality? Is it something that maybe it was there a little bit when you were younger and you had to like cultivate and grow it? And something that also is a little like worrying is there the fear that if you make these decisions quickly, will you regret them quickly also?
Yeah, I mean, again, I have a process by which I make decisions. Okay. I mean, in other words, I always say, okay, how much money am I putting at risk? I always say, is this sustainable? Does it support my brand? Does it go towards the goals that I have set, or am I just dividing and conquering? In other words, am I just getting myself distracted? I mean, I have a series of things, and when I make decisions, so I can make them, fairly fast. But if you watch interviews with any entrepreneur, like I've seen Richard Branson, and I know Trump, during the real estate days the same way, they're all pretty quick. I mean, Elon Musk, I want to buy Twitter. I mean, it's not like he gave we all know he probably didn't put a great deal of thought into that. Not that it was and I'm not criticizing, but he knew what he wanted. He probably there was a number there stock wise that, hey, if I can get it for this, it'll work. But I guarantee it wasn't like 30 days of deep thought. It was 40 some $1 billion deal. I would be willing to bet anything that there wasn't 10 hours of just straight consumed thought on that deal.
And it seems like watching these guys, they're saying even like Elon Musk and Twitter, it's like, even if the deal doesn't pan out, he's got this publicity, or it might lead to something better. So it's like, okay, I know what I'm risking, and I know what I want. But then, like you said earlier, I'm willing to adjust if something new comes along, and I pivot, like maybe not 100% of the way, but I pivot slightly towards something in the ballpark of what I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got, in most entrepreneurs too, I think he's got a great amount of self-confidence. And I think his overall feeling is I honestly believe Twitter has been run by schmucks. They're missing a great deal of audience when you eliminate, Trump and other people. If you eliminate massive, whether you agree with people or don't, that's a moot point. But if you're going to be the town hall, then there's a town hall idiot. You got to let everybody talk. So I think to him, he just kind of looked at it like, you guys got something really good, but you're not really running it well. And on my worst day, I can improve it. And my natural person, I'm going to bring, attention to it immediately. Like, I think on a bad day, he's like, I'm going to increase the stock value 20%. So there's like no way I can lose money on it. I think that's how he's looking at it. Like, this is not very well run. They're eliminating a lot of voices. How can I possibly lose money at this? And I think that's probably, I know I look at things similarly when I'm buying something or whatever. I'm like, okay, how much can I lose on this? I mean, is it really going to be an absolute failure that's worth zero when I screw this up? I mean, normally, it's hard to bring something down to zero.
Yeah, and you're making me think that, like, anytime I've been in a situation where if I've hired an employee or a few employees for something, or I've joined some kind of monthly service to add to my business, I said, how long will I give myself to make this work? Will I give myself 3 months? Will I give myself 6 months? You're making me think about a situation where I sold a website to someone, and he had this already existing list of members. And I said, just pay me this amount of money and then roll your members into this. And there's almost no way where you can lose money on this. There was another time when I sold a website to someone, and he had a presence in an affiliate network. And I said, there's this product and this download page and this website. You're already plugged into this affiliate network. Just add what you have to this. And so it seems like with what you said and with all these couple of situations, the common factor here is that there was like a strategy, there were kind of existing assets to plug into things, and this kind of idea of how can I engineer a situation where I won't lose money, or that it will be very little lost if the worst happens.
Exactly. I mean, every deal I try to structure like that, where I go into it going, okay, it'd be hard for this to be a complete and utter bomb. Because I try not to do anything where there isn't some level of synergy with something I already own. So typically when I'm buying something, there's a net benefit, and I know it going in, and it'd have to really bomb. But I will say that there are certain things that I do give deadlines to, and I give startups deadlines. Like if a startup wasn't rolling money, assuming, obviously this excludes venture capital, which I have to tell you is like the 1 in 10,000. So let me just say that. But if I had a startup that wasn't making money within 6 months, it'd be gone. There'd be a massive change, or it'd be gone. To me, it failed. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it failed. A business is designed to make money. I try to have mine make money from day one. And I have typically found with startups, and this is the typical small business, okay? Businesses of sub $10 million. They generally work faster. They don't ever work. They generally bloom. Now, how big they bloom to, that'll be up to you and the marketplace you're in. But generally they bloom fairly quickly. They work. There's somebody interested in it, and you can grow it and all that. But typically if it's a bomb, it early.
Well, these are some cool lessons so far, and it's been interesting to get a glimpse into your mindset, your thought process, especially when it comes to the exciting controlled chaos of startups and entrepreneurism. And you have this brand of the 10-minute entrepreneur. And can you tell us a little bit about that now that we've kind of gotten a few of these tastes here about you and what you do? What do you have going on as far as the podcast, the websites? What do we need to know?
Yeah. Okay. Most exciting thing I have going on is, but it's a year from now, I own the Weekend MBA, and we just had that in April in Miami. And I had, Brad Lee, DJ White Shadow, who's Lady Gaga's producer, the A Star Is Born album. He happens to also owns the Graduate Hotels. And I had Peter Taunton, who started Snap Fitness, and it's an incredible once-a-year event, 2-day event for entrepreneurs. And I love that I'm very passionate about that. And then obviously the 10-minute entrepreneur podcast. So anything that helps, entrepreneurs is kind of what I'm focused on. I have my businesses that, as I say, pay all the bills and give me the credibility, and I'll always do that. But to, to equip, encourage, and educate entrepreneurs, the 10-minute entrepreneur podcast. And if you go to my website, SeanCastrina.com, you can get a free book there. I think right now I have my 8 Unbreakable Rules for Business Startup Success. You can grab a free copy there. And so, yeah, I just, love helping out entrepreneurs. Hopefully I can help them not make some of the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah, I hope so too. And as you and I know, it's not an overnight process, and your emotional state and the problem you're solving changes every 10 minutes. And so you need this constant flow of your YouTube and your podcasting heroes to always have in your ear. So that way on a day-to-day process, when you have those real difficult problems, or you're just having a real down day or a down week, we need the Sean Castrinas of the world and the Brad Lees of the world and whoever else to kind of lift us up and to give us those small, consistent doses of help. So the place to go is Sean Castrina on YouTube and SeanCastrina.com to check out about Sean's blog and podcast. And as we're winding down here, Sean, you mentioned about helping entrepreneurs. So where do entrepreneurs need the most help these days?
Boy, I think, if you're not, you should be reading constantly. You should always be reading and learning. I'm just saying that, if you can get mentored, if you're under 30 and you can get any local business owner to mentor you. I did this. I found a veteran business owner, and I took them to lunch once a month, and they're never going to turn you down. Just so you know, veteran entrepreneurs love to tell you how they did it. I could have had 50. I could have had 50 business mentors. So, get someone who's been there before you. And another thing is that if you're thinking about starting a business, it's never a bad idea to get a job in the industry you want to start a business at and kind of see how it works and just get a good feel for that industry. I mean, sometimes we're 18, 19 years old and we want to be entrepreneurs. And I'm like, maybe you want to get a job, learn how a staff meeting runs, see how a customer conflict gets resolved, see how an employee conflict gets resolved, and just, you just always need to be growing. You just don't want to be the same person 6 months from now, a year from now that you were. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, then read everything about business. You need to be like an addict.
And I've heard that they've said that you need to be like an addict or almost have like an OCD type of obsession for your business and where you want to go and the problems that you want to solve.
I'm consumed. Anything to do with startup business catches my attention. I'm always reading an article, Googling something, or it just constantly, I mean, I answer, a few questions every day on Cura, but the last time I checked, I had more views than anybody in the business section. I had answered, more people had seen my answers to questions. I think it was like 300,000. So, I mean, I do it every day. It takes me like 5 minutes to answer like 2 or 3 business questions. Why? Because I'm fascinated by business, and if I can help somebody, then great. So it's hard to help somebody if you're not growing yourself.
Right. And you don't know which of the core questions will pay off, but you need to be diligent and show up every day. And it's only 5 minutes, but it's also easy not to show up if you don't have this all consumed behavior. So these are all great lessons that we need to pick up from you. And the big kind of common thread I'm getting from you is that others have blazed the trail before you. Others have, like, there's these business mentors you can be speaking to. There's these books and podcasts you should be listening to. There's these jobs that you can be getting and joining, so that way you can see how the problem has already been solved in the decades before you. So that way you can shortcut all this time from not having to figure it out yourself. And it seems like a lot of that requires letting go of some of your own ego and being open to this new knowledge, this new information. And we all need to be doing that. And the best place to get started, to jumping in on this business mentorship and to getting this information, is by going to SeanCastrina.com. We said before that is SeanCastrina. Just wanted to impress you there, Sean, with how well I can spell your name even better than you, the master himself, can.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. If you go there, you get a free book. But yeah, real quickly it's soon on YouTube. You're going to learn how to like separate Siamese twins. I mean, seriously, there's videos on everything. Information is more available to you today than at any other time in the history of mankind. If you're not learning right now, shame on you. TED Talks. I mean, everything is they have streamlined learning to this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you used to have to go to the card catalog, and now, MIT and NASA has all this information there. Like you said, shame on you if you are squandering the greatest opportunity in all of human history to use the infinite device and to get in any solution to any problem that you have. And so go to SeanCastrina.com, check out the 10-Minute Entrepreneur podcast and YouTube channel. And that way you can get to where you need to go by having this daily OCD addict obsession to getting your business, your startup off the ground. And thank you so much, Sean, for stopping by and for overloading us in a good way with all of these things that we know that we should be doing. So thank you for that.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
You're welcome.